Life Beyond Labels is a Quiet Loud Studios production, proudly featured on Sports E Media. Discover more at quietloudstudios.com. Background music created by Yo Crane. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Life Beyond Labels podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey O'Connor, and I want to start off this episode by saying thank you for listening. I'm so grateful that you chose to listen to this podcast today, and I just hope that you're left with something meaningful. And I think you will be, because today I want to talk about labeling our experiences. For example, if you've ever been told that college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life, or you felt pressure that your teenage years or your early 20s, those are supposed to be the best years of your life. Or maybe you feel hyper nostalgic, like your quote golden days or your best days are behind you. Or maybe you've been made to feel like age is this constant uphill climb and it only gets harder and sadder, and age is somehow this burden. This episode is for you. Growing up, I just heard a lot of the adults in my life reminisce really fondly on college. And so they told me that college would be the best time of my life too. Or when I was a teenager, it was wait until you have bills to pay. Wait until you have a family to take care of. You're lucky you're young. You're going to feel the effects of those sports later. And kind of painting this picture of all the struggles that would come ahead with age. So I better enjoy my youth while it was supposedly, quote, easy. And I listened to the adults in my life reminisce about college and the good old days and high school, but also struggle with getting older. But what if your teenage years or your early 20s or whatever it is, what if those aren't the best years of your life? Are your best days actually behind you? Did you miss them? The answer is no. I promise the answer is no. But I want to talk about why. And so I really want to talk about why labeling our experiences can make things more difficult and just offer a different way of reframing how we view these periods of our life and how we process them. I went to high school and college, but I know that not everyone does. So I do want to preface that this is just my personal example. But I'll tell you right now, high school and college were not the best years of my life. And that doesn't mean I'm not incredibly grateful. Don't get me wrong, I have so much to be grateful for. I really do. But I want to give an example of a highlight reel and a low light reel of the same time period, just to show why it's important to not just see the bright side of things and not just see the bad side of things, but to see it as a balance and see both. So I promise this has a purpose. But I'll start with the highlight reel. So we'll start in 2016. I was a sophomore in high school, and I grew up in an adorable town in the Chicago suburbs. I went to a great school. I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities and the education that I had access to. I got to explore different career paths and student teach preschool and elementary school. I got to participate in clubs and volunteering and make friends. I had jobs. I got to travel the country just to play a game. I had a family that was willing to support me in those goals. I had access to coaching, great facilities, healthy food. I went to school with my twin brother, and he and I were really close. I'm really close with both of my brothers, and I'm so grateful for that growing up. And my twin brother and I, we kind of had this seemingly charmed experience. I was a varsity softball captain. He sang and did musicals, and he ran cross country and track. So while he came to my games, I got to go to all of his events. And that was so special. It was really cool to meet other people and be so involved in the school. I ultimately got recruited to play at my dream school. I achieved my goal of playing Division I softball. I got to play in the ACC. I moved from Illinois to beautiful North Carolina. I became best friends with some of my teammates. In the beginning of my career, I had a great relationship with my coaches. I received gear, meals, medical care, support. I got to travel. I got to spend every day doing something that I really loved. I'm grateful that I was allowed to study something that I was passionate about. Most of my family ended up moving to Carolina, and they would tell you too that it was to be closer to me. I think they would tell you that too. But I got to represent my school in the Carolina sunshine. My family was there. I had to be on a softball field and move my body. During COVID, I had a home to stay in. I traveled for holidays to visit family I was lucky enough to be close with. I saw beaches and mountains and different cities. I studied abroad in England. I lived in a nice little apartment. I met my best friends in the world my senior year, and they took me to football games and trivia nights. And then my very last semester, I had a really meaningful internship at an equine therapy farm, and that was really special. And then when I graduated from college in 2023, I gave a speech and it went viral, and life was magic. My highlight reel is that I was living my dream. My friends, family, school, softball, all in that little nugget is my 6-year highlight reel. And now I'm going to give you the low light reel. But before I give you the low light reel, please know that I truly do feel like one of the most grateful, blessed people in the world. I am so grateful for my safety, my education, down to the basics. I am not a victim of life, not even close. But I've had challenges. And so I promise that this low light reel and this highlight reel has a purpose. So I just want to preface with that. But we'll go back to 2016. I was a sophomore in high school. And in 2016, my parents' divorce was finalized, which I will not be going into at all, but it was really tough. So I ended up moving. And then 2016, I suffered my first whiplash concussion, and that gave me occipital neuralgia, which is nerve damage in your neck. And then I suffered another injury, and I spent months seeing a concussion specialist, suffering from migraines, the occipital neuralgia. And then I'd finally started getting better. And then in 2018, I had a base running collision where I was clotheslined, and the first baseman stuck out her arm, so I hit her and then landed face first on the ground. And this injury, I cut my chin open. And then when I went to get stitches, the ER doctor had a mistake with the numbing. So what ended up happening was I had this bulged chin that was numb. I couldn't move like half of my face. I had this huge scar on my face, completely altered my appearance. And then NC State told me they wanted me to play. This is a week before NC State. So I go to NC State. They tell me they want me to play. And then they ghost me for 4 months before they decide to offer me. And then my freshman year gets cut for COVID, but we come back. And then in 2021, my sophomore season, I was told that I was supposed to finally start. I was finally supposed to start in the lineup just from what I was told. Okay. And then a week before season, I have a random medical scare. I did not want to tell my trainer, but then it just got really oddly severe. My blood pressure would skyrocket. My pulse would skyrocket. I was in the hospital 2 or 3 times. I had no idea what was wrong with my body. And then it got better after a month, and they never figured it out. And I felt crazy. And then we had such toxic things happen on our softball team that basically half of our team left that summer. My coaches are just not great people. And so we had really extreme mental health concerns. And so my best friends on my team, probably 9, 10 of them, were concerned, telling me these really severe mental health concerns. And then when I went to advocate for that alongside of our psychologist and our trainer, I was told by our administration that I had a personal problem. And then I suffered an arguably preventable collision, which gave me another head, neck, and jaw injury. My coaches were flat out cruel. And then my coaches and then some of my teammates overnight cussed me out and told me that I was taking too long to recover, and that because I looked fine, that I should be fine. Never spoke to me again. My childhood dog passed away. I medically retired from softball. I nearly failed out of the semester. I was seeing 6 different doctors. I had braces and screws and springs put on to fix my jaw. I struggled with cognitive delays. And then 3 weeks after I had left the team, I got in a totaled car accident, which I walked away from mostly physically, but it was like my last straw mentally. And that was all in 2021. Lost my car, friends, identity, brain health, sport, mental health. And then a year and a half later, my coaches were let go. And I was frustrated because these things that I had brought to the administration's attention were ignored. And so we didn't get the help that we needed. And I suffered this injury. And then a year later, they get let go for these same issues. Right after I graduated, I lost someone extremely close to me. And that's my low light reel from high school and college. But as you can see, neither is a good depiction of my high school and college experience. Both are so heavily weighted in either just the good or just the bad. And within the same time period, I felt the kind of joy that just lights you up and makes you so excited for life. And I also felt the kind of aching pain that feels like a brick on top of you. And so the reality is that while I faced some significant challenges, I also had a lot of blessings at the same time. And so both were true at the same time. Both of these reels were options in how I could look at these experiences or choose to see it. But I wanted to choose a blend and a balance because when I look at the low points and the high points together, it really makes me appreciate the good points and stay present in the moments when I can, because I know that those good moments aren't guaranteed. And seeing the good and the bad together reminds me how far I've come. But I also can't just look at the low points either, because choosing to see the good and choosing to remember what I'm grateful for, that's what kept me going. And it's the same with our emotions. We have to feel through the difficult parts to enjoy the good moments and to really appreciate them. There's a quote I think about all the time. It's from Brené Brown, and I love Brené Brown. And she says, you can't numb those feelings without numbing the other affects, our emotions. You can't selectively numb. So when we numb those, we numb joy, we numb gratitude, we numb happiness. So we can't selectively numb. And when I just wanted to shut off from the world, I was empty. But letting yourself feel the good and the bad, as heavy as it is, keeps us human. And there's a mental practice that really helped with how I was processing these chapters in my life. And it was when I was focusing so heavily on the bad, I had to zoom out. And when I was seeing only the good and really minimizing the bad, I had to zoom in. So in essence, when I was just completely overwhelmed by a lot of bad things happening all at once, I remember my brother at one point, he said, it's okay. It's going to get better. You hear that all the time. It's going to get better. It's only up from here. And then something would happen and it would just get worse. And it's like when life is just kicking you when you're down, like one difficult thing after another. And that's when I needed to zoom out and see a bigger picture. There is no normal college experience. There is no normal anything. Normal is just the expectation that you've set based on what you've heard, read, seen in your own environment, or envisioned for yourself. And so there's no need to label our experiences based on what they should be. And I guess just asking yourself, who's defining should? It's not about comparing your problems or minimizing them, but it can be helpful to have that perspective. So what really helped me personally, as cheesy as it sounds, was a gratitude list. And not to ignore what I was feeling, but just to remember the privileges and the good things. Going to school was a privilege. Having my family around was special. And also at the same time, stepping outside of myself. That was probably the most helpful part, was volunteering my time or through social work internship, making sure that I wasn't spending all of my time and energy in my own world when my own world felt so overwhelming. And so part of zooming out was stepping outside of myself and stepping into someone else's shoes, whether that's through volunteering your time or whatever that was. But for me, it was volunteering my time. On the flip side of that, there were also days that because I felt blessed, I just beat myself up for feeling sad at all. Like maybe I was attracting bad things. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe I didn't deserve the good things because being sad about my challenges made me ungrateful. I told myself that my problems were stupid. And that's when I had to zoom in. And so, alongside that list of gratitude, I also had a list of my raw feelings and things I was going to let myself feel through. And I thought about how would I respond to these problems if someone else was telling me about these things happening to them? If another person was sitting across from me, I wouldn't want to minimize them and tell them they need to get over it. Or at least you're in college and you only have to worry about yourself, or you're supposed to have fun in college. Oh my goodness. I remember someone told me that when I was really struggling. And I almost remember feeling guilty. Like I'm trying to have fun in college. I promise I'm trying. But if someone else was confiding in me, I would just want to acknowledge them without judgment. And instead of ignoring the hard feelings, I would want to fully choose to see them so that I could fully celebrate the resilience of overcoming them and fully celebrate making it to the other side. Just let something suck. Like, ugh, that sucks. You don't have to stay in that space forever, but allow yourself to be there for just a moment. So then you can really just feel seen. Okay, I feel seen. Let's move forward. Because your feelings are going to demand to be felt if you don't acknowledge them. They are going to come up in some other way. And for me, after all of that, I just really wondered, did I waste away what was supposed to be the best time of my life? Like, is this it? Was this supposed to be the best years of my life and I missed them or I ruined them by doing something wrong? And it's 2024. So we all know that social media is a highlight reel. But that doesn't mean that it hurts any less when we start inevitably scrolling and comparing ourselves to people on social media who seem to be having a quote normal experience, whether that's college, whether that's high school, whether that's adulthood, it doesn't matter. And so for me personally, it was seeing girls go to the Women's College World Series, have their senior days, and have these quote normal careers. But it could really look like anything. And you think, oh, why are they having a normal experience and I'm not? But one of the rules growing up that my mom would always say is if you want to swap with someone, you have to swap everything. And I'm not going to explain this as well as I want to, but I'm going to do my best. And basically, I would say something like, I wish that I had more friends like Lexi, or I wish I had Lexi's car, whatever it was. And my mom would go, okay, but if you have Lexi's friends, you have to have Lexi's struggles, her insecurities, her family, her body, her siblings, her things. You can't just have Lexi's friends. You have to have everything that comes with being Lexi. And if you swap with Lexi, that means you give up your own insecurities and struggles, but you would also have to give up your own things, siblings, family, body. Do you still want to make that swap with Lexi? And I would sometimes think, why can't I have both? Why can't I have just that one extra good thing? And you can, but honestly, it just really helps me sometimes to stop comparing only the good parts of people's lives because no one can cherry pick only the good things. So if I wanted my brother's grades, I have to take everything that comes with being him. Everything is a give and take. That includes our experiences. Everything is a trade-off. So for the chapters in my life or chapters in our lives, sure, high school, I don't have to worry about rent for me personally. I got to spend a lot of time playing a game, but I was also very socially anxious and I never felt good enough. and I felt trapped in my own skin. And now with age, sure, I stress about taxes and student loans, but I'm more self-aware, I'm more socially aware and confident because with age has come this ability to see myself get through hard things. And that's something that I'm really grateful has come with time. Sure, in college when I was an athlete, I got to travel. I got to wear gear, but I also felt like I was in a race all the time. And now that I'm past it, I feel so at peace. I feel present because I don't feel like life is this constant race or competition anymore. So yes, there were great parts of those life chapters. And there were also parts that I'm glad to have moved on from. And I would argue right now that they kind of felt harder than some of the challenges I think I face right now. Some young people will experience some of the hardest events in their life, the hardest events they'll go through at a young age. So we all need to make sure that we're not jokingly contributing to making adulthood sound like this burden that only gets worse in time. In my experience, even through conversations with people of different age groups, whether it's people I love or acquaintances, there are some things that get better with age. There is a lot to look forward to. If you accept and you embrace that every chapter is going to be a blend. And it's difficult because at a young age, maybe you haven't had evidence yet that reassures you that a tough thing will pass. You're still building up your resilience reps. So take your challenges seriously. We all need to take the challenges of young people seriously. And honestly, it's more about intentional language than anything else, too. So you could mean so well when you say college is supposed to be the best years of your life, but instead, let's reframe that and rephrase it to say, I hope you have the best years of your life so far. And so swapping supposed to with I hope this for you, and then adding in something that allows for great times ahead and doesn't put time sensitivity on it can be really helpful. Even in my 20s, I'm in my 20s right now, I'm 23, and I wonder, am I spending them right? Will I fade into irrelevance? Is it all going to get harder and sadder? The internet really stresses me out because a bunch of people in their 20s are traveling the world, or they're investing in real estate, or getting engaged, or getting married. But then I feel so much better when I remember there's no right way to experience a life chapter. And that makes me feel better. And so I'm looking forward to, I don't know, being more independent, maybe having a family, I don't know, whatever my next phase is. But right now, I'm not wishing this time away of being in Carolina and being 23 and choosing to see the balance and the blend in every stage of life can help every one of us to stay grateful and to stay grounded. Instead of putting pressure on these to be the best years of your life or feeling like it's all a wash if they're not, don't subscribe to thinking that it's all downhill. There's this other quote that I really like, and I don't know the original source, but I heard it on a podcast from Alex Hormozy. And he talked about this guy who said, when I was 20, I wanted to be a millionaire. And now that I'm a millionaire, I want to be 20. And so my encouragement, and I guess my action item too, which I will be continuing to practice myself, is allow yourself to make a feelings list and a gratitude list, because both of those can exist at the same time. Use intentional language when you're looking ahead at time. And I hope that these are my best years yet. I hope that these were my best years so far. Just allow yourself that grace period of not what it should be and what it should look like, but just allowing it to be what it is and be grateful for that. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I hope that you have your best day yet today.